Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I would be willing to pay.
$5 million in 5 years. In plain sight, pretty obvious, everyone sees it, but somehow no one is doing anything about it to capture the money. If this is the first time you're here, my name is Eric. In my day job, I work in a number of very innovative new business models with some of the biggest technology companies in the world. The names that obviously you and I know, I cannot mention it here. I start this channel because I have more than 200 plus ideas in the past 2 years, and I want to evaluate them one by one. The good ones, I will keep them until it doesn't make sense anymore, or if I start to make money, I will share the journey with you. If they're bad, I will just dump them. What's in for you then? Well, you can copy and paste my business ideas for free, and it's easy to start them because you basically just follow my steps, how I evaluate and develop the products. And the only thing you need to do, if it works for you, leave me a comment or join my community and let me know how it goes. It's a $10 billion market. I'm talking about racket sports market, basically tennis, badminton, squash, and the likes. And according to Allied Market Research, roughly, guess how much? 25% of this are spent on just the racket bags. That means $2.5 billion every year are being spent just on the bags of carrying the rackets. And out of the $2.5 billion, imagine you get just 0.1% of the market share. Guess how much it is? $2.5 million of revenue per year. Imagine the gross profit before marketing costs and other costs is roughly 50%, so you get $1.25 million of profit per year. If you sell it to a private equity or private investor at the price to earnings ratio, okay, by the way, if you don't know what is price to earnings ratio, check out the link above. I had a video about it. But basically is the number of times of earnings that you price a company so that you sell at that price. For example, if the profit per year is 1.25 million in this case, if we sell it for 4 times the price to earnings ratio, basically means that I'm going to sell it at $5 million. And in fact, this price to earnings ratio of 4 is actually super low, because if you look at Adidas, guess how much is Adidas prices to earnings ratio? 38.4. So almost 10 times higher than my estimate. So this is a very conservative estimate. And we just say, okay, we sell the company at only 4 times the profits that we're making. That's why I was talking about this is a $5 million plus opportunity. And it's pretty simple. Just to show that this is totally possible, the founder of Fitness Mirror sold the company to Lululemon for $500 million. This is written in 2021. And guess when did she started the company? 2016. That's exactly 5 years. So this is totally possible to sell a company for multi-million dollars in just 5 years. What exactly is the idea? Look at these very ugly tennis/badminton bags. It looks like that they haven't improved since the 1980s. Still that ugly. Fucking ugly. Sorry, my word. If you go on to search for tennis bags, what will pop up on Google is quite a variety of choices, but all of them have something in common. They all look incredibly ugly. You can see the shape basically more or less the same. Most of them would be around 60 to 70 euros, if not much more. And it hasn't improved since the 1980s. If you search for 1980s, they're basically the same, exactly the same looking, maybe a little bit upscale. Some of them would have leather, but basically very plasticky, ugly materials. No improvement in the past 40 years or so whatsoever. Pretty disappointing, given the price we have now, talking about 100 euros, 80 euros, at least 70 euros. All of them look more or less the same. So they can carry 6 rackets. Cheapest one is 60 euro here, but most of them are 60, 70, 80 euros. Fancier ones, 100 euros or more. Let's have a look at something similar in Alibaba in China. If you don't know what is Alibaba, you can go to the links above in my previous videos. So Alibaba basically gives us a price of around 12 euros for buying wholesale for more than 3,000 of them. But imagine Wilson probably would be ordering 30,000 if not more, or 100,000. So let's look at the other one. How much would it be if 100,000 orders? It would be around 8 euros at cost. And then imagine, okay, we give some margin. Maybe the Wilson one has a higher quality, etc. Okay, we still assume that it costs 12 euros including shipping. The gross margin would be very high, 48 euros. Imagine 60 euros you sell it, you buy it at 12 euros, you earn 48 euros, this is 80% of gross margin. And if you sell 10,000 of them, each of them you sell for 60 euro, you have 600,000 revenue and you earn 480,000. And that's just a bag. And this is only one product. So how can we capture this opportunity? I'm sharing this idea for free and also the steps going forward in the rest of this video and other videos. You can just copy and paste and do it yourself as well. So please give me a like so that I can continue giving more ideas to you guys. Okay, so what exactly are the steps in order to evaluate the business idea and to develop the product? Well, first of all, I need to correct you. We develop a solution rather than a product. I'll explain more later. But the first step, of course, is to identify the problem. You may say, why don't I create the product directly? Because in many cases, people fall into the pitfall and say, okay, I just create a product, I think someone needs it. But we don't even know what exactly is the problem. In some cases, there are some solutions that can solve the problem without our idea of the product. Then we're wasting time, right? The second step is to look at who are the target customers. Even for the same problem, there will be different target customers. Like if I want to go from A to B, I could be a 60-year-old guy who likes a Volvo and live in rural area. Or I could be a guy who lives in the city, need to have a small car who looks cool, basically a Mini Cooper. So you can have the same problem but different solutions. So that's why it's extremely important to know who are your target customers, and also, of course, the marketing would be different as well. Third one is quite obvious. What's the market trend and the competition? Of course, we look for ideas that are trending, going upward rather than it's dying, right? And also we need to know our competitors so that we have our own unique value proposition, or basically our unique selling points to beat them, or else why would people to buy from you instead of the big competitors? Number 4 is the actual solution, the idea, because now we know what exactly is the problem, who are the target customers, and previously we talked about the competitors, right? So that we focus on the customers that we are trying to target. The next, of course, is to create a product. Rewind. Okay, not yet creating a product. Before we create a product, there's one important step that people often forget. So go to market, we all thought about is like, branding and marketing. That's true. But even before actually going to the market, we have a step or 2 steps. One is validating our assumptions and the needs from the customers. So we need to go to the community to understand, ask questions. And the second one is to verify, in some cases, the prototype. Even we created a solution, we need to evaluate with the potential customers to see whether it makes sense or not. So this is important before we actually go into creating the products. Now goes to the product creation. So it's the step number 6. This is simple, quotation mark, because basically you need to design the product and to manufacture the product. Distribution, logistics, this is the next video. The first step, as mentioned, is to figure out what exactly the problem we're trying to solve. There's different scenarios if we go straight to the products without even knowing the problems. First of all, we could create a product that actually doesn't solve the problem. Then, of course, it's useless. Secondly, it might solve the problem, but actually there are other better solutions to solve the problem. So that's why it's extremely important that we figure out accurately what exactly is the problem. This time, the problem is relatively straightforward. We play tennis or badminton, we need to carry our rackets. We have our shoes with us in some cases, maybe t-shirt, water bottle, etc. So we need to carry them, but they look incredibly ugly and no improvement has been made in the past decades in terms of the looks. Imagine Beyonce or any other fashion icons carrying a super ugly, fucking ugly bag to play tennis or badminton. It just tarnishes their image, right? This is the problem we have. We know the problem now, but what's the size of this problem? Is it worth the effort? As I mentioned, it's a $2.5 billion per year business opportunity. The bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the money you get. And in terms of profit margin, you already looked at my examples before. The gross profit could be 80%. This is a high profit margin. And the solution is relatively simple. Just make something less ugly. Target customers, of course, we need to make certain assumptions. For example, for me, I would say around 25 to 35 years old. Because obviously, if you're 70 years old, you're probably too old to be actively playing tennis. And even if you do, you probably wouldn't care too much about the accessories, right? Because we want to go for more premium clients. Of course, I will explain more later why we should choose premium rather than mass clients. Then, of course, we need to have someone who can afford this amount of money. That's why I choose 25 to 35 or 25 to 40 years old rather than 18 years old or 16 years old. So now we know the age group. I will focus on women rather than men, even though the numbers suggest that roughly half of the players in tennis, for example, are women, to be precise, 47%. But the thing is that women probably would care more about the aesthetics, and also the thing that the current backs are usually more masculine. If you look at the photos here, they are very masculine. Very few of them are feminine or cute. So that's why I think that there's a bigger market gap in terms of serving women. They are probably very trendy, they follow the latest trend, they are fashionable. I mean, these all have big impact on how we do the marketing and the product itself. Talking about methodology, how to evaluate new business ideas, since we have so many new ideas in our minds, I have a certain way of approaching that. But I would love to hear from you guys how you want to do it or how we can refine it. So feel free to subscribe and leave comments below. Step is about looking at the market trend and the competitions. Well, obviously, you wouldn't want to go into a market that's declining, except there's case like Kodak, right? And the good news is that racket sports, especially badminton, is picking up in the USA. So you see the trend is going up. And also the overall growth rate of racket sports is also going up. You look at the Kaiga, combined annual growth rate is going up in the coming 10 years, which is a good sign. So how about the competitors? Yonex from Japan got 20% of market share. You see their names all the time. You play badminton. And then with a hat, 12% of market share. You also have Li Ning from China. You have Decathlon from France, etc. So these are the big names. How are we going to disrupt them? Of course, we should focus on not their strength, but on their weaknesses. The strength they have is that they sell mostly are still with physical stores, which is quite amazing. It's incredible, right? 2024, we are still talking about physical stores with majority of the sales. So this is something we see an opportunity. Of course, it's very difficult for us, a new guy going to the sales into the physical stores, if they have very strong relationships with those chain stores already, and they probably will charge you a fortune to sell it on those chain stores. We should target, if you look at e-commerce is growing steadily among racket sports as well. And this is the piece we should focus on because the cost is much lower instead of you need to pay chain stores. The fourth is the solution. We're talking about the idea of the solution rather than going into creation of the product yet, because we need to be very clear about what we are trying to solve. Luckily, this is relatively simple. In fact, this is probably the simplest among my business ideas, because what the solution entails is that we need to carry our gears for tennis or racket or squash. Basically, the rackets, maybe rackets, depends. This is something I need to discuss more later. We have a bottle of water, maybe a pair of sneakers, a pair of shoes, and also some compartments to put the t-shirt, etc. And of course, don't forget about the shuttles or the balls. This is relatively straightforward, and we just need to make improvement to make them better. The solution is make them nicer, fashionable. We need to focus on the persona. As I mentioned, would be a lady, 25 to 40 years old, probably in the West. I mean, I know the biggest markets apart from USA, Europe is also Indonesia and China. But China and Indonesia have very different ecosystems in terms of sales, in terms of taste, because if you want to appeal to everyone, you're appealing to no one. So better stay focused. Let's take USA and Europe. The good thing about picking the gender in this case to focus on is because for ladies, probably you can focus on something more feminine, because one of the problems we say from Wilson or Yonex is that the existing products are very masculine, apart from being ugly, of course. And perhaps because in the West And ladies usually they care more about ESG. So probably we have leather, which is more premium, but should be vegan leather rather than real leather. So vegan leather, fashionable, cute, feminine, and probably we also need to think about if 6 rackets would be too much. Probably doesn't make sense if someone who's a fashionable player, probably they only need 2 rackets rather than 6 rackets in a big, very bulky bag. Last but not least, it has to be of relatively high quality because we don't want to mass market very low profit margin, and also you're doing the same effort with much less money. Imagine you're selling 200 euros versus 20 euros. 20 euros, you still have the same number of logistics you need to deal with, the customers who are calling, same number, but you're making 10 times less. So always focus on premium sector, and premium sector, of course, then we need to have corresponding quality. So the quality should be relatively high. I'm not talking about Louis Vuitton, that kind of high, but it should be relatively high quality. So this is something important when we develop the product. I finally come to product creation. Rewind. No, not yet. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. But now we talk about go-to-market is the pre-production go-to-market and the product development go-to-market. You may say, what on earth I'm talking about? That's extremely important. Oh, by the way, don't forget to subscribe so that you can learn about my framework of evaluating new business ideas in the coming videos. So what on earth are we talking about pre-production, go-to-market, or even during product development? There are 2 things we're talking about. The first thing is that we need to validate if there's demand to the product and whether, this kind of price range, people would pay for that, right? Maybe first of all, people don't care about that. They say ugly is fine. They don't care, most people, then there's no market. And secondly, even if they care, maybe they are not willing to pay more money for that, then there's nothing we can do about it. So this is extremely important to validate if there's a market need to this problem and also if they are willing to pay more for that.
Sure, no problem. My name is Danny. I am 36 years old. I live in the city and I'm a scientist.
I have to admit that I'm a little bit nervous now. Going to leave a comment in some of the public groups just to get some feedback or validate some of the assumptions. So one of the main assumptions we have is that the racket bags for tennis or badminton are ugly, right? So that's why I want to test is say if people actually agree with my assumption, and if they agree with that, how much would they spend on a bag? So let's see what people says. The first message here, hopefully I'll get some positive responses. Probably copy and paste to a few more groups. These are mainly Facebook groups. The reason is that I'm surprised. I will show you later that Reddit, there are actually not too many Reddit groups about tennis or badminton, and they have very small number of members, which I'm totally surprised. So I copy and paste. So I'm new to the world of tennis. I'm quite puzzled, to be honest. The bags for rackets are just super ugly, to be honest, and they're not cheap at all. So do you agree with my assessment, and how much would you pay for another bag? I had a look at Wilson one for 6 rackets would be 60 to 80 euros. Would you pay 120 euros if it is fashionable? So let's see. Copy and paste in a number of groups. Hopefully I don't get blocked. Okay, one more. So of course, in general, I pick the groups. Okay, this one probably is not the right one. They really talk about the sports itself. So let's see. So in general, I pick the groups that are bigger. At least 10,000 people, or maybe in this case 9.9K. Because if it is smaller, then probably you wouldn't get too much of responses, right? I might go for smaller ones, maybe a few thousand guys, but for now I stick with the bigger ones, like this one 27K. Hopefully it's a good size. So regarding Reddit, I'm expecting much more activities there, but I'm totally surprised. For racket sports, for example, starting with squash, with only 22,000 joiners, which is quite small. You just search squash communities. There's only one basically, but let's see. In general, squash. Or they don't even have a choice, so you only have one community. But you search tennis, for example. Okay, let's not pick directly the community, but try to see, okay, if there's something else. Not really. You don't see like the others like 20K, 16K, etc. So let's go to tennis. This is already the biggest group among the racket sports. 1.3 million is not too bad, but if you compare with other sports, that's crazy, right? Only 1.3 million for tennis. So the only choice you have is this main badminton space or community, as they call it. Only 60K members, which is really low for badminton, which is a very popular sport. I mean, at least in Asia. And I asked the same question. Let's see what people says.
Surprise!
I'm quite disappointed, to be honest, with ChatGPT. Let's get some luck from ChatGPT to see where are the top communities of tennis lovers. The first one for Reddit, tennis, we already did that. The second one is tennis players. Interestingly, we searched for that. This is a group with only 653 people. So I don't know why they recommended it. Okay, last time 9 months ago, it's probably not active, and they're just showing some female tennis players, so probably is not the right place to ask. The Facebook groups, the second one, Tennis World, we already looked at that. Tennis fans worldwide, I searched for that, interestingly, smaller group. So there's a page with 3,000 people, better than none. Forums. So first one is Tennis Warehouse Forums, and the second one is Talk Tennis Forums. I searched for the first one, as you can see. It shows up the Talk Tennis one. Yeah, hopefully there are some activities. Good. By forums. Facebook groups, there are not too many either. I try to sign up with a number of pages. Let's see if they accept me. I even post in one that doesn't require membership, but apparently I need to wait for approval. Hopefully they approve that because it didn't work for tennis. It didn't work for a number of tennis groups. So I hope that badminton would approve me and then some members would give some comments. Let's turn to forums and see what we have for badminton. Okay, there's no more badminton link forums. I'm quite disappointed, to be honest, with ChatGPT. I think there's a 50% chance of failure in terms of their recommendations. Same for tennis. Anyway, it's better than none. Let's see Badminton Central. I think probably need to sign in. Hey guys, super excited because I got approved immediately, which is a total surprise for me. Okay, let's create something like that. Just copy and paste. Let's see. Let's post it. As I mentioned regarding branding and marketing, these next steps will be in future videos. So remember to subscribe and click the bell button next to the subscribe button so that you're not going to miss it. Finally, we come to the step number 6, to actually create a product. There are two main steps about it. The first step, of course, is to design a product, and the second part is to actually manufacture the product. It's relatively straightforward in some sense, but on the other hand, it's also very difficult because we're talking about a physical product. First of all, design. We can go to Fiverr or Upwork to look for a designer for products. The second one is about manufacturing. So there are many manufacturers in China that's already doing something similar. The ugly ones, quotation mark. You can see many of them on Alibaba. They are making the traditional tennis bags, badminton racket bags. Let's have a look at how much would it be to design some bags. So I started with Fiverr, the freelancer platform. I searched for bag design. There are a number of bag designs, which is good because I saw on the other platforms there are quite a number of them. They are not creating designs, but just creating rendering. And rendering for me is not enough. We need to have actual design with actual dimensions, with considerations of, practical uses. Because as I told you before, I had one guy help me to do my rendering for a product that I designed myself. And we couldn't even open the drawer because he didn't even think about there should be a gap between the drawer and the frame. So I don't want this to happen with the bag, especially if you need to manufacture it in China. Then you don't want it to have 1,000 of them and none of them is working, right? that would be a huge loss. So that's why I'm looking for not just rendering, but actual designs, previous experience of real stuff. So I search for back design. I think quite a number of them are quite promising. Of course, we need to go into more details to see whether they had any real experience designing or it's just, in theory, rendering something and actually they don't work. Okay, quite a number of them. And this one, I actually open it. Actually, that will create tech packs and technical flats for fashion clothing. Okay, let's see. Another one is a design fashion backpack. And the good thing about that is that first of all, you have the design, the drawing of the concept, different angle view, and then they have different packages, right? There's also plus the tech pack so that you can send it to the producers or manufacturers. And then there's a premium that they actually can contact the supplier who actually produce the real thing. I think this could be quite value added because I don't want to source for the producer myself, especially you don't know how good are the producers. But this is one I will have a separate video about it. Maybe we can look on Alibaba, the business-to-business B2B producer platform, manufacturing platform in China. If just the design, $135 or euros with the supplier, which I think would be quite value added. It's not a huge difference, 60 euros more, $70 more, would be 378 euros, $390 roughly. Not cheap, that's quite some investment, but if there's a real demand, then I think it's worth it. And of course, this is just one of the examples, right? We will also look around. Okay, for the other freelancer platform Upwork, I searched for back designer and then I did some filter, top rated plus, product design, product development. So I need to pick among them. I think, okay, this one's 70 euro, but I think this is $70 per hour. I think this is more luxury goods, leather, probably the Marcella, $55 per hour. I don't know how many hours though. Priscilla is probably too expensive, $100 per hour. This guy sounds a bit arrogant from his reply to his client, the complaint. $100 per hour, wants to do everything, so probably won't be this guy especially. $500 per 30 minutes of Zoom call is crazy, right? So probably Marcella, I can't really do an assumption, right? $55, how many hours? 10 hours perhaps? It really depends. So in general, I prefer actually Fiverr because Fiverr is usually packages. So you click into one of them, you usually have a package, basic, standard, premium, what is included, how long does it take, how many revision. I don't like too much Upwork, is that just per hour? How do you know how many hours, right? Which is crazy. So in general, I prefer Fiverr, but if I need to guess, so $55 per hour with Upwork Marcella, and then let's see Fiverr, how much was it? Okay, the one I chose including factory. Unfortunately, not many of them are going to factories to help you have connection with factories and provide tax packs in Fiverr. The one we saw was around 300 or 400 US dollars, like 380 euros. This one, okay, Marcella, $55. I would say 50 euro, probably 10, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours. So in general, our guesstimate would be 400 euros, 500 euros for producing the design, the concepts, and the tech packs. Just now we were looking at the designers, and of course we need to find the manufacturers, right? Unless we find the manufacturers introduced by the freelancers on Upwork or Fiverr, we actually need to find the manufacturers ourselves. Alibaba is the biggest platform in the world to provide goods mainly produced in China, of course. What I'm trying to do here now is to ask questions, basically saying how much are you going to charge if I want to customize designs, basically the whole tennis bag, not just logo, because usually they offer so-called customization, it's just a logo or graphics. But this is not what we wanted, right? It would look exactly the same. So let's see what they reply. I don't think it's immediate. Wujian, China, Oxford cloth. I'm not too sure about that, but anyway. Sample, okay, one sample is 186 euro per piece, which is crazy, given that this is so ugly. Yeah, it's so freaking ugly. And customization, you see here, customized packaging, graphic customization. So none of them is really customized, I would say. Let's see what they reply. Next videos, we can also look at if they produce the design, how does it look like, and the prototypes, whether they make sense or not. So remember to subscribe and click the bell button next to subscribe button so that you're not going to miss out the program. Of course, this is not the end of story. I wish so. There's still the distribution part. How we're going to sell is on Amazon, it's on Shopify. You have marketing, and also logistics, how you're going to deliver the products, and also customer services, etc., etc. Of course, before we go to that, we need to verify the demand of this solution and also the cost to manufacture it that makes sense. So what do you think about the idea and the approach? Leave me in the comments below. So remember to subscribe and click the bell button next to the subscribe button so that you're not going to miss out the 200 plus other ideas that I have, and more importantly, to follow through the journey from ideation, evaluation, product development, and even market launch. I'm very excited to share that with you. See you in the next videos. Ciao. Hi there.
Hi, Eric.
I have a number of questions about badminton/tennis bags. I want to get some opinion from you.
Absolutely.
But before we go into that, I want you to introduce yourself a little bit first.
Sure, no problem. My name is Danny. I am 36 years old. I live in the city and I'm a scientist.
Right, Danny. Do you play tennis as well?
Yes, I'm currently learning how to play tennis and I occasionally play badminton.
Thank you for your introduction, Danny. Let's crack on. I'm going to show you pictures of some bags, badminton/tennis bags. Let me know what you think about them.
All right.
So here are the photos. What do you think?
I think these look mostly utilitarian. They're not very fashionable or cute. So I don't think I would carry those around after tennis if I were to meet some friends in the city for coffee.
Right, so you can't imagine yourself after playing tennis go to the office carrying that, right?
Unlikely.
Okay. The second question is, they are around 60 euros. Would you be willing to pay more if it would be, cuter or more fashionable?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think I would be willing to pay up to twice that if it were a very cute bag that I really like to carry around.
Okay, so we're talking about 120 euros or roughly that range.
Yes.
Good. Last but not least, the ones you're seeing, for example, the one from Wilson is around 60 euro, roughly this range, and they can carry up to 6 rackets. Our assumption we would like to validate with you is that we would probably design something that carry only up to 2 or 3 rackets. What do you think about that?
I think that would be certainly sufficient. I don't think I would have to carry around 6 rackets, so a space for 2 rackets would be sufficient, definitely.
Great. Thanks a lot, Danny.
You're very welcome.